We now have Susie the Geek with us, and you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and your kidling, and we will jump into our quick bite on how to raise a geek.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susie, and these are my kids, Kevin and Amanda. You guys say hi.
Hi.
And they're being a little camera shy today, but that's okay. We usually do audio, so this is kind of a fun adventure for all of us to jump in and do this. But we knew you guys were working really hard today, so we wanted to jump in and give y'all a little help, a little assist on doing this. So we thought we might talk about some of our favorite things in kind of science education. We're kind of flying off the top of our heads because, you know, kids, they like to do that. And so we're going to talk about just some fun stuff. And so, hey, Kevin, what is your favorite area in science to study?
Life science.
What kind of science?
Life science.
And what does that include?
It includes like studying about animals and plants and lots of other things.
So one really interesting thing about studying animals and plants is that has to do with space is what would they be like on other planets?
Definitely not, well, probably not like they are on Earth.
So how did you get an idea of what they might be like on other planets?
Well, lots of fiction shows and movies and books, they all describe animals and things to be like sci-fi, to be like the animals on Earth, and I don't think that would be very, very accurate because if it is another planet, the places would be different, and wouldn't that mean they'd be different to adapt to their area?
I think so. I think they would be very differently kind of shaped and have all kinds of arms and legs and wings and things designed for whatever environment they grew up in. Now, there's a game that you've played that helped you kind of figure out what kind of creatures needed to be in what kind of environments. And what game was that?
Spore.
And in Spore, what could you do?
You basically make your own animal, and you make it smarter to where it's this super advanced race.
Where they're out in space, like the highest level is you're flying around space and going to all these different planets and stuff.
It just ruined my role, man.
You start out as a cell and you don't do very much like in the water, and you grow to adapt to land, then you do
Tribals.
civilizations, and then from you just keep getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So you learned a lot about how maybe life on this planet developed and how life on other planets would develop.
Yeah, definitely.
So, like, if you had a planet that was just covered with water, what kind of creature do you think would live there?
Maybe a sea/air animal.
Mm-hmm. And what kinds of things? Would they have flippers or wings or
They probably
what kind of
have
stuff?
flippers and wings.
They would probably just live in water though, because there was no land, there'd be no like resources to get from being out of the water.
So how would they get around? What kind of shapes and stuff do you think
Like
they'd have?
flippers and webbed feet.
Don't really know what kind of shapes they'd be like, and we can't really imagine it.
Now you can.
But you can come up with some ideas based on the way things are shaped here, right? You could come up with some ideas. Now, of course, truth tends to be stranger than fiction, so there's no way we could imagine all of the stuff out there, but we could get an idea from it. And that's one way we can have a lot of fun with science, is playing a game like that where you can kind of come up with your own creatures and stuff.
Bill John Wild.
What's another fun thing you can do? Now, there's some stuff that we have gotten supplies to do that we haven't gone out and done yet, and that's building our own rockets and shooting them up. Is that something you guys would like to do?
Well,
We've got model rockets. We just haven't fired them yet.
you guys actually didn't you guys get them more for Amanda than me? Because
We got them for both of you. Don't worry.
I'm not really interested in that.
Well, what could you put on it that would make it interesting?
I don't know.
Do tell.
Could you put a camera on it and let it take pictures when it got all the way up in the air?
I've already seen that kind of thing.
You've already seen that kind of thing.
I've been in a hotel before.
Yeah,
Isn't
but
that
you
pretty
haven't been
close?
in a rocket ship, have you?
Why would I? Why would I be in a rocket ship?
Oh, I'm just saying, you haven't seen what it looks like from a rocket ship. That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Well, how about you tell me an experiment you would like to do? Something that you would like to do so you could learn science just by doing it rather than just reading about it or hearing about it.
I don't actually know a project I would do for that.
Well, if you wanted to study animals, would you want to go out and get some animals and raise them like I did growing up on the farm?
Yeah.
And what kind of
Probably.
animals would you like?
I would like maybe...
They're not saying anything.
I don't know.
We'll talk.
This is the fun part about having kids on a live video is you never know what they're going to do.
I don't know what animals I have. Amanda didn't give me enough time before she pinched me.
Amanda, do you have any ideas for an experiment maybe you'd want to do or something you'd want to try?
Not for that.
What about for anything? Anything sciencey.
Wait, what are you talking about again?
Anything sciencey. Any kind of experiment or something you'd want to do.
I don't know. I just want to play Skylanders.
They want me to let them go and play Skylanders, which is what they were doing with their dad for Father's Day.
And I want to finish.
Well, you
Conquering
were
the
playing.
World.
He was like, I don't want to do this, even though it was his gift.
I played a little bit with you guys, and you guys kept being overpowered and killed me all the
Because you're
time.
not good at it.
Because I never played it.
Yes!
You guys are way overpowered, and I barely even know the controls.
Just what you wanted to tune into the Google Hangout for. Hearing the kids argue. That's pretty silly.
It's all Amanda's fault.
Well, do y'all want to say anything to Nicole before I let y'all go? Because they have been working really hard all weekend. And did y'all want to say anything like, thank you?
Thank you.
Thank you
And
for working
conquering
so
the
hard.
On the show.
world- conquering the world is easy. I did it.
Help us do it.
They work very hard, and we definitely appreciate it. And if you guys aren't aware of what CosmoQuest X does, you should definitely check it out. If you're at DragonCon, you should definitely come by the booth because Nicole, Pamela, everybody's there working really hard. And even these kids, jaded with their video games, found something fun and interesting to do at the website. Are you rolling your eyes?
Yes!
Well, it's a little bit like a game
Wow,
itself, right?
Exactly. Well, okay.
Cheated with their video games.
I know, you guys are funny.
Wow, Mom.
Seriously?
That's just
Okay,
cold.
I'm going to let them go and play,
That's
and we
just
can
cold.
move on. All right,
That's
you
good.
guys go play.
You're mean.
Thank you guys. So Tim, Tim, if you can send in Keri as well. Send Keri along to the Hangout, and then tell Corey, our programmer, you know who he is, to print the cards. Corey, if you're watching, to print the cards, if you can, that I emailed to you. We have Cards Against Astronomy coming together, thanks to Ryan. So Tim, please get the message to Corey that we would like those printed. Or if he's not around, then we can get you to print that themselves. Paramount has gone off to take a call. Yes, please call her right now. While I run the show.
Definitely call,
Yeah,
donate, you know.
I've been left.
Give to
I've
these
left
folks.
with all the messages blinging at me. So yeah, do your jobs. And send.
No,
to
that
Keri.
sounds good.
I know. Oh gosh, we have so many things going on. We've got all this help in the background. These guys are keeping the show together. So if you can send Keri.
Well, I'm very impressed. You guys have been doing this for over a day, and you're still going strong. So
We got
that is
popsicles
amazing.
style. So that's helping.
Popsicles.
Helping. So we are talking about growing up engaged in science. So talking
Yes.
about parenting with science and how you get your kids to talk about science concepts and their ideas. So why don't you just go ahead and tell us who you are, tell us about the work you do in How to Grow Your Geek, and yeah, go ahead with that.
Okay. Well, I'm Susie Murph. I podcast at How to Grow Your Geek, And it is usually an audio podcast, hence the fun of doing live video, because usually I can edit a little bit more and get them to talk, because it's really funny trying to get kids to talk right when you want them to.
Yes.
But we talk about all kinds of things, because I'm a big science, fantasy, sci-fi geek, and I think it's great fun to share all this stuff with my kids. Now, some of the stuff they love, and some of the stuff they're like, gee, Mom, come on. But it's all about trying it all until you find out, what strikes their interest and what inspires them to go and do stuff. I'm pretty happy that Kevin already has decided that he really likes life sciences and all.
Oh, good.
That makes me happy. And Amanda has gone through from wanting to be a marine biologist. I think now she's more looking at architecture, but it's still a really good, interesting technical career. And she's trying out different things. So that's, what you want your kids to do. You want them to go and explore different options and find out what they're interested in and what they're good at. So just as parents, I believe that it's important for us to try to, give them at least a little exposure to all these things. Not overbook them like crazy, but give them time to visit places that might be interesting to them. Like we recently, right before the end of the space shuttle program, we went down to Cape Canaveral and Kennedy Space Center and toured around there, because I really wanted them to see it before it stopped functioning in that capacity anyway. And, they got to see the space shuttle up on the pad waiting to go off, and, see some of the history of the space program, too. I heard Amy share a title this morning talking about walking in and seeing the big Saturn V laying down there.
Oh, my gosh.
And it's amazing. And, even my kids, they may be arguing or something, but you walk into a building and all of a sudden there's this giant rocket and you're just walking and walking and walking and you're still under it. They're going to be pretty impressed. And, it's hard for them to even, tune out in the science when you've got that moment going on.
Absolutely.
So it's a lot of fun, taking them places. I mean, I'm a big space geek, so they have to put up with me doing, being interested in a lot of this stuff. But they're pretty game to go in and try different things and see all that. Plus, we went with my husband's parents, and my husband's dad happened to be a aerospace engineer who worked on the engines, the solid rocket boosters of the space shuttle.
Oh, wow.
So for him, it was really great, and it was personal, and he got started talking to the kids about what he worked on. So that made it even more interesting, I thought. Plus, it was, a good way to connect with their grandfather. So
that's awesome.
That was a lot of fun. Have we got Keri in here now? I feel like I'm doing all the talking.
Yeah. Hi, Keri. Tell us a little
Keri.
bit about yourself and your background.
Oh, gosh. So I always wanted to be a meteorologist. My preschool was hit by a tornado, and I came home that day and said, Mom, I want to be a meteorologist. And continued along that path. And then it wasn't until high school when we happened to be in Florida and we saw STS-114 launch. And then I was like, well, I really want to do that. So I went to space camp twice, total geek there, loved it. And then I found out right before I started college that I could study weather on other planets. And I said, that's it. I know what I want to do. So I did that. And I went to Texas A&M. I got my bachelor's in meteorology, and I just defended my master's in atmospheric science here also.
Woo!
Yes.
Yay! Congratulations. That's a big deal.
Man.
I believe it was a month ago yesterday that I defended. So I've been enjoying a little bit of time off. I went to a NASA social, things like that. Now I'm turning into my first author paper, which is pretty exciting.
Very cool.
And then I, about a week ago, accepted a job offer at JPL to be a mission operations engineer for the Dawn mission.
Oh, welcome and join. Yay!
Congrats.
So I'm wearing my
see you
Surly
have a
Amy
necklace.
JPL tag here.
Yes, so that is another Surly Ramix. As you can see, we love Amy's jewelry around here. So congratulations. That is really, really cool. So in addition to the harrowing experience of your early childhood, what else can you say really helped you to keep going with science throughout your childhood and growing up?
I definitely had a lot of supportive teachers, which was really nice. So thank you to all of them. And really just being able to read and study on my own. I was homeschooled for 5th grade, and that's when I really developed how I could study and gain material just independently. And so I thought that was a really good experience. And really just making sure that I was reading and kind of keeping up with things, and, you know, always looking at the blogs and the books and whatever it is out there, and trying to keep on top of everything that's going on in space, because if you tell somebody that you work for NASA or, you know, you do this stuff, they're like, oh, well, you know, what about this thing that's completely unrelated that you do? So, and a lot of that is why I landed working on Dawn, and all of my specialty is working on Mars spacecraft. I've gotten to work on the Phoenix lander and Spirit and Opportunity and Curiosity, and I actually work on Curiosity later this week. But you know, because I've had all this experience and I was willing to, you know, learn about all these different things, they were like, oh, sure, come work for Dawn. I was like, okay. So,
asteroids.
Yeah, you know, going from Mars rovers to asteroid orbiters, totally big switch, but, you know, it'll be exciting. And I like learning new things, so
awesome.
I'll have a lot to learn.
Susie, do you have any early experiences that got you thinking about science and pushed you towards science?
Oh, goodness. I think I was always a bit of a science geek, you know, techie geek, because I remember when we first got computers in the classroom. I'm a little older than you guys, so I remember when we first got those computers, and I started learning how to do stuff on them, and that kind of triggered an interest in science and technology with me. And there was one particular experience that I really clearly remember that it wasn't exactly inspiring, but it was very memorable. And that was when I was in high school, and that was the first space shuttle disaster. And we were sitting there, and we were doing a blood drive at school, and we were all watching it in the library. And so, you know, it's just one of those points that's fixed in your memory. But I remember it being so important to all of us that the space program not stop after that, that we keep going, because we knew we needed to explore, and we knew we needed to get back, and to not let that stop us. And just kind of through my course, I ended up studying psychology in college, and I did my master's program too, so I certainly understand what it's like going through the defending your thesis and stuff, so congratulations, Keri. That's a big deal. But I would have loved if there was a way to do psychology on other people, other races from somewhere else. That would be really amazing. So the thing I would really like to do is right now considered science fiction, kind of exopsychology. But what is really fascinating to me is I've always just loved everything having to do with science and space, and I've stayed a hobbyist in it, even though my career took me somewhere else, and then now I'm mostly, you know, working with my kids and turned into a science educator informally, if nothing else, on my podcast. And I've got a Surly today too. I've got my science Surly and my bad astronomy Surly right here.
Yay!
So that was another fundraiser she did.
Yes. So I'm an enthusiastic hobbyist, which basically the point I make across that is no matter what you end up doing for your career, even if it's not in science or tech, you can be a hobbyist all of your life, and you can really enjoy it and promote learning about science. And, you know, given how important science and technology, engineering, and math is for the kids in the schools nowadays, it's a great thing to just kind of get your kids used to learning about and get them to enjoy the experiences of, because it's going to be so important in careers in the future.
What are we showing here?
This is,
oh!
Got Keri's images. Unfortunately, for some reason, it doesn't want to, like, be a normal size. So
We can see scroll.
Keri, do you remember when you and I first met?
I do. LPSC 2008.
Yeah, you were a baby undergrad wearing your medals from space camp. And I remember that because I went to space camp too and got all those same medals, and I think you may be the only person I know who went more times than I did.
And I only went twice, but
oh, then for some reason over the years I had multiplied the number of times you went because I went more than twice. But it was, yeah, that was just really cool to me to see someone so similar yet so very different who was, you were ahead of where I was at your age, and it was just kind of awe-inspiring to get to meet you. And so, yeah, here are your pictures. We see. Yeah. Can you explain why you have a red thing labeled blood on you?
Yeah, so for the 2-week space camp mission, at the very end you have a 24-hour mission, and in this one they can throw medical problems at you. And so our pilot ended up having a heart attack. Well, I had to try and reach forward during launch to hit all the switches so we could get into orbit. Well, in that process I hit my head, and therefore blood started spewing out, and as a result I gained OCD to open and close drawers. So I opened up all the drawers, and they have these things called space ghosts. And so if there's a drawer open, they will start things to float out of the drawer. In other words, they throw everything everywhere. So for the entire mission, I was opening and closing drawers, and yeah, we paper toweled the entire model of the space shuttle. That was pretty fun. So yeah, that's the story there.
That's awesome. So then
And I've heard you're never too old to go to space camp. I never got to go, and they do have
you
it for
should
adults,
go with
right?
our teachers.
This is a thing we're doing?
The Boeing pays for a group of Metro East teachers to go to space camp.
Okay, we need to find a
So
way.
talk to Steph.
Okay.
Yeah. You need to go.
I want to go too. I want to go.
Well, do
That
it
sounds
for
like
adults.
fun.
I think they'll take us.
I grew up in Alabama, and I still never got to go. My husband did. He grew up actually in Huntsville, so he got to go, and he worked there when he was in high school. So I always told him I was jealous, and I want our kids to definitely get the chance to go over there because I never got to go, and it would be so much fun.
We are $364 away from paying 1 year of graduate student salary. $364.
And
Come on.
we've had some really impassioned pleas in the comment threads from Nancy Graz and from Thomas saying, hey, just $1, just $1 or just a retweet or just a share to some friends. That's going to help us out a lot. So cosmoquest.org/donate. That's the link to go to donate. And share the YouTube link. Share the cosmoquest.org link as well.
And Ryan, I'm flipping. I have like 20, it feels like, conversations open. Ryan, we know you are out there doing cards against astronomy. I want to print them out. Can you email them to me? starstrider@gmail.com.
Oh, he emailed them to me, and I emailed them to Corey. So should I forward them to you instead?
Yeah, because the printer's right there, it
Okay,
turns out.
that works.
Never mind. And so
I'll
thank
forward
you.
them.
And all the rest of you, we want to spend our last hour playing Cards Against Humanity. We're also going to have Sandy come in, tell us about Fame Lab and working at Arecibo to defend us from the evils of asteroids. We're hopefully going to have Stuart Foreman come in, join us with the sun. So donate and keep the science coming, but also keep the Cards Against Astronomy coming. We want this to be a thing.
I had made Cards Against Mars.
Ooh.
Oh, can you send us the files?
Fun.
I could probably send you some. There's some that shouldn't go outside the MSL science team.
That's fine. That's fine. We're good with that.
But, there's ones in there like Curiosity Hopelessly Impaled on a Pointy Rock, and that one's from Doug Ellison.
That's not as bad as some of the ones I'm seeing.
And then, of course, we have plenty of Star Trek references like Captain Janeway with PMS and, things like that.
Oh, no.
So,
I met the actress who plays Captain Janeway once.
This is a good story.
Oh my God, I was so humiliated. So I'm one of these people that just I'm okay with face recognition, but not great. And if it's a TV person out of context, I'm likely to embarrass myself. The first time I met Jamie Bamber, I had no clue who I was talking to, despite being the largest Battlestar Galactica fan there is. But he was scruffy. It turns out he's my height and very, very British. I had no idea.
Yes.
But so I was trying to organize getting some International Year of Astronomy stuff autographed by William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, and I'd been told that their handler was about to come through a set of doors, and I was waiting outside that set of doors for their handler. And out comes this woman in a suit. I didn't register the face. I said, "Excuse me, are you?" the name of the handler. And Katie looks at me and she goes, "No." And I had this moment of, and I fled. I hid from the entire Star Trek crew the entire rest of that Dragon Con. I was humiliated. But yeah, so it was probably far more embarrassing to me than the story makes out, but I was humiliated by this. But I'm now rambling.
Yeah. Well, I got to play Cards Against Mars with Jerry Ryan at my apartment in Pasadena this past fall.
Sorry, what?
Is she really as cool in person as she seems on Twitter? Because I've seen her talking on there, and she seems like she would be the most laid-back, cool person ever.
Yeah. So her husband's the chef, and I like cooking, so I was totally like freaking out, and ended up that she just wanted to eat my dinosaur chicken nuggets, and sat on our floor and played Cards Against Humanity with us.
Oh my God.
How awesome.
Jealous so hard right now.
I know. I wish I could trade places with you there, Keri, because all the stuff sounds so much fun. I would love to go to JPL and see all this stuff. I'm always watching when one of these landers is landing. You know, one of these things is coming down on Mars. You can ask my kids. I stayed up and I was watching the 7 Minutes of Terror and everything. I was just sitting there gnawing my fingernails. So, I want to come hang out at your house. That's what.
Yeah.
Come visit me at JPL. I'm moving there in like 6 weeks.
I would love to. It would be so much fun. You just have this crazed, suburban soccer mom going, "This stuff is so cool."
Oh
That's me.
We do it too. It's okay.
So Ryan, just ask on YouTube. Wait, were these supposed to be family friendly? No, don't worry, it's fine.
It's fine. We can go with it.
We
PG-13.
Yeah, well, and if they're not PG-13, we're all clever enough to edit on the fly, so that
Speak for
we know
yourself.
what they say.
Speak for yourself. You know how bad my filter is.
New Yorker.
I'll just kind of wave it. Oh man. So speaking.
I know when to put the headphones on.
Yeah.
So I have to. I'm the wrong person to talk to about raising people as geeks, because I get kids when they're 18 and they don't count as children anymore. I steal other people's offspring and turn them into scientists and engineers.
Everyone doesn't know what to do with children because they have snot coming out of them in their little.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yes. Yes.
And y'all probably wouldn't believe me when I say when it's your kid, it's a lot less gross.
That's what
It
they
just
say.
it doesn't register until you've had one, and then you're like, okay, I have to, But
I
yeah,
know-
somebody else's kid still kind of grosses me.
I know I have it bad when, like, Tim's niece, does baby spit up on my sweater, and I'm like, oh, no big deal. Oh, I'll go change your diaper, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not freaked out by that, and that's not my kid, so I don't know what that says about me. I think
No, that just means you're good with kids. That's a good sign.
I'm supposed to
Yeah.
reproduce at some point. I
Yeah,
think.
you're compensating for Kyle and I. It's fine. It's fine.
Not by number, I hope. I don't want a lot.
No, and it's one of those things that there are all different kinds of parents in the world, and some just adore all the little baby stuff, and others are like me, and I like them when they're old enough to talk and do stuff with, and you don't have to, wipe everything up after them all the time. I have way more fun with them at that point because, you can do more stuff with them. So this is the age group I like. I've got them 10 and 13 now, so
Ooh, okay.
yeah, they help a lot too, which is really nice.
Is this the age where they stop asking the good questions, though?
Yeah.
What are you doing to stem the tide of, I'm a teenager now, I'm too cool, I don't want to ask questions?
Well, one thing we really tried to do is make sure that all the we've tried to let them ask all the questions that they want to ask. Now, every now and then you do go, all right, enough, just go to bed. But generally, if it's a good question, we'll sit down and we'll actually answer and give them probably a much longer explanation than they want. But we've just tried to foster this environment where they can ask anything. And, we kind of come up with it, and it's a good thing Amanda's not sitting behind me because she'd probably be rolling her eyes right now. 13-year-olds do that.
Oh, yeah.
But they've been really good about still asking good questions because they know they're going to get an answer, probably more than they want to know, but I believe in the more information, the better. So
that's awesome.
So they still ask, which I'm really happy about.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, that's the age where that starts to drop off. And I work with groups of students, and you see a sharp drop off. Like third grade, they're great. Fourth grade, they're great. Fifth grade, they're great. And they're the peak of the asking questions and the knowledge.
Yes.
And then if they're not in the right group after that, they start to slide off. And once they're in high school, you really gotta drag it out of them when they're in a group. Yeah, they're like, ooh, too cool for school at that point.
A lot of it has to do with, number one, being engaged as a parent and having interesting things to talk to them about. Mm-hmm. If you're just talking about, they're not that big into the news and politics and stuff. Mm-hmm. But if you have interesting things, like we had a really good discussion today at lunch about, decisions coming through the Supreme Court and copyright law and how that applies to the Happy Birthday song, things like that. If you've got interesting things to talk to them about, they often get engaged even when they're not trying to, and they start asking questions back. And also having really good teachers in their classrooms that keep them engaged and give them a lot of information that, then they come home and they ask you about. That's a really good thing too. And one way you can kind of see how engaged your teachers are is to go and help out at the school, help out in the classroom, and know your teachers and know what's going on in their classes. You have to ask a lot of questions yourself, so it's definitely not hands-off kind of parenting, but I think it really pays off because you're able to keep your kids talking about stuff.
Were you both the kind of kids that continued to ask questions and be geeky even through your teens? Can you tell us a little bit about that? I know I was an obnoxious geek all throughout.
Yeah.
Even though I rolled my eyes.
I basically said I don't care what other people think of me, and I want to know what's going on, so I'm going to ask the questions. So I totally asked questions and did whatever, and I try and tell that when I'm talking to high school kids. I'm like, really, even next year they're not going to remember that you asked the question, but you're going to remember what you learned. Yeah. So, you may be embarrassed or whatever, and they may laugh at you for 5 minutes, even if it's a dumb question, and there really isn't any dumb questions, but, they won't remember. So, do the benefit for yourself.
Yeah, so I'd like to share. We've gotten $35 more in donations. We are now at $14,669. We are still not at a Feed the Joe level. Feed Joe.
Come on, all the dads out there for Father's Day. Give instead of receiving a little bit. Give a little bit to these folks because they do a fantastic job providing educational opportunities. So that's my plea anyway to all the dads that I've talked to today.
Guido says, I don't have children, but I still feel like a kid myself. Then again, everybody does or should. And I think that's something that science brings is you get that sense of wonder no matter what age you are. And that gives you the feeling like you're still a kid discovering things again.
Can you share the rest of the comment tracker?
What do you mean? Scroll down?
No. I'm only getting
you want the link.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I know that's definitely the way I feel. I still feel like I'm a big kid, just, right up here. And sometimes I'm surprised. I look around and I'm like, I've got kids. I've got to take care of myself. Oh, goodness. But it really does help to keep you interested and engaged in stuff that's going on, to have that sense of wonder. When you go in and you see something like the Saturn V rocket, it's pretty amazing to stand up there and look up at it. So I think that really helps, and I think that there are a lot of us, especially the folks that tend to be geeky, we still have that very much that sense of wonder.
Oops, sorry. I'm still getting all the things here. Are you queuing something up?
No, I was just trying to figure out where the
In the chat up here. The chat in the Hangout.
Oh, for some reason I didn't get a blue number. Now I see it. Okay.
Sorry, we're still trying to do all the things.
Ooh, it's 414. I don't even know what a 414 is.
Okay.
Okay, don't worry about it. I will simply lean over your shoulder.
Okay.
So we're going to have, we've been subjecting everyone to death by puppets the entire show, because really, death by puppets. And we have them slated for their own 15-minute segment next, but we have a great opportunity.
We have Ryan Lynch next.
Sorry, we have after Ryan, after Jeff Nocum, we have a 15-minute segment dedicated to death by puppets. But instead, I'm going to replace it out with Sandy, who's going to come to us and do her FameLab spiel, and it is a fabulous one. So I'm going to edit this schedule to reflect that. And yeah, we're having we're having a great set of guests. We are so amazingly pleased that we've had so many people. We've gotten $15 more in donations. We are now at $14,684. Thank you. Thank you.
So Susie, maybe. Okay, silent puppet. Susie, what do you do? And I guess we can all talk about our own experiences or experiences with kids. What kind of activities do you take your kids to, or do they take you to, where they can learn more about science?
Well, we definitely go and do all kind of the normal sciencey things. We go and visit the museums. But what we typically look for is when they're having some kind of special activity, like we have a science museum nearby that's called the Tellus Museum, and I think Pamela's been over there, and I know I just recently met Jeff Notkin over there, and it's in North Georgia, and they have an observatory. And so a lot of times they'll have a night where you can come out and you can go and look at the observatory. And that's one of the things we're actually planning on doing at some point. We haven't made it over there at night yet, but another really cool thing that we have done, definitely, you always have the list of the things you want to do and the list that you haven't done, that you haven't done yet or that you want to get to. Another thing was our Natural History Museum here in Atlanta, Fernbank Museum, had an exhibit, and it was mythical monsters. And one of our podcasting friends, Dr. Atlantis from the Monster Talk podcast.
We know Dr. Atlantis.
Yes. Blake Smith. He was over there, and he did a tour through the mythological monsters exhibit, and he was talking about kind of the factual base of the monsters and how the kind of the myths came up. And so we took that special tour with him going through there, and that it was much more interesting than just walking through the exhibit and looking at it. And that really helped because the kids really enjoy mythology books. They're big fans of the Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief series, with all the Greek mythology. So there were a lot of those monsters and stuff that were in there. And then we could talk about the real animals that kind of inspired it. So anytime you can find something that's like at a museum or a science center or something near you that has an added program or something extra, something fun or more interactive, those are really good things to go and do because it kind of gives you a little more than just the walking through the exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
And other things that we tend to do is I grew up on a farm in South Alabama, and you can imagine the skies there are beautifully dark at night. We're out in the boonies, and we live in Atlanta, so in Atlanta we have tons of light pollution. But when we go down there, we tend to try to either take our binoculars or our Galileoscope and go out and try to look at things. And we've also got our iPads with our Star Walk programs and stuff, and we go outside and do that. which is a lot of fun. And I mean, it's gorgeous and dark, and you can see everything. You can even see, the band of the Milky Way. It's absolutely gorgeous to go and do that, and that doesn't cost anything except just being there. Let's see, what else do? We do a lot of talking about stuff. I know y'all can't imagine me talking. I know it's hard to imagine a podcaster. We watch a lot of sci-fi and then talk about it.
Nice.
That's what I did growing up.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and sometimes and it doesn't have to be good sci-fi. Sometimes you can talk a lot about the really bad sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
And why is that? Why does that not make sense? And oh my gosh, in something like Revolution, no, the power really wouldn't go off that way. We've had tons of long conversations, and it gets them interested, gets them engaged. They have a perspective that they want to share, and we have factual information and our own opinions that we can talk about there too. So those are the kind of things we do. Anyway,
I had a less geeky childhood, definitely in terms of sci-fi. And my mom didn't have a background in science at all, but saw my interest in it and just bought me every book possible that had to do with science. And this was in the age before Google, and I asked why about everything. And I asked her recently, I said, so what did you do? I asked you why? And you didn't have a background in science, and you saw me having this interest. I wanted to be an astronaut when I was 5, and that was it. I was set. And she's like, we took you to the library. Remember that place with all the dead tree things with the words on them?
That place with all the books? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not Barnes & Noble?
Yeah, right? You can take them, but you have to bring them back.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my experience, was a lot of books through my mom.
That's what my parents did with me. We did, they bought me books. They let me watch pretty much anything sci-fi that was on. I was able to watch. I was an only, so I didn't have to argue or fight with anybody. They just usually let me watch whatever was on. If it was Battlestar Galactica or whatever.
That was my favorite.
Yes. Had the big crush on Starbuck back then. With the hair, exactly. And then just going to the library and reading a lot of books. Because I was out on a farm out in the middle, in South Alabama, and there wasn't a ton of sciencey stuff. There weren't really, cool camps and things. So they just let me read lots of stuff, which was really cool.
So we are wrapping up this segment in a few minutes. I want to know if you each have any last bit of advice for inspiring the younger generation. This is very corny. Inspiring the children of tomorrow into science or cultivating their natural curiosity. So, Keri, you want to give a shot at that?
I'm totally going to plug SEDS here. SEDS is the Students for the Exploration and Development of Space. It's mostly, it's an international organization, but I can only really talk about the USA chapter since that's what I'm familiar with. And then within SEDS USA, we have college campuses and high school campuses all across the country. I was the president of Texas A&M SEDS for many, many years, and you'll find each group kind of has their own flavor. When I originally joined, all it was upper-level aerospace students complaining about their classes, and I was like, let's do something better than that.
Yeah,
so I brought in people to talk about astronomy, and I brought in a guy who was growing plants in low-oxygen environments, trying to simulate microgravity. How does that affect plants? Tried to really diversify the group. And because we're so close to Houston, we're only about 2 hours away from Johnson Space Center. We actually have a lot of astronaut kids in our group, and so we've been able to get some astronauts in and talk to the students too, so that's been really fun. And if you go, all the different chapters have their own themes. University of Central Florida is like 100 aerospace engineers, and they build their own rockets. If you go to the University of Arizona, it's mostly astronomy and optical engineers, and they build their own telescope every year. And you have this very diverse group, but we all get together. We have a national conference every year. This year it's at Arizona State. It's usually around sometime in like late October, early November timeframe. And so if you're a student who has any interest in talking to people in various aspects of space, definitely go to Space Vision. It's a lot of fun. The first time I ever went was actually when we hosted it, and I was helping to host it. And the after parties are totally worth it.
Awesome. Awesome.
So, and I think they're about to do a big rocketry competition across the different chapters. So if you have any interest in rockets, join your local chapter.
Awesome, awesome. Susie, do you have any parting shots about engaging kids' natural curiosity?
Well, I would say definitely with the younger ones, just let them explore. Turn them loose in the backyard and let them flip over rocks and find what's under them. Take them out and show them the stars at night. You know, they're natural scientists, so, you know, just kind of encourage that, give them the opportunity to do that. And then as they get older, give them books and TV shows and movies and all kinds of stuff to inspire them and give them creative ideas. And I think you'll be amazed. You know, they'll find something they really, really like in there, and just be available to answer questions, and just give them those kind of resources, and be willing to talk about stuff and listen. I don't do that enough. My kids will probably be telling you, but I try. I try really hard, and that's the best you can do, is try to listen and have conversations with them about stuff. So that's my best advice there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us for the CosmoQuest Hangoutathon. It was so good to see you guys.
Yes.
And I know, Susie, we'll probably see you at DragonCon.
Yes. You'll see us there, and I'll probably pitch in and help at the booth again too, because that's a lot of fun.
And Keri, hopefully we'll see you at LPSC yet again.
Hopefully, yeah. I think I'm turning more into an engineer now than a scientist, but they've promised me that I can talk to or look at the science data for Dawn and do whatever I want with it, so maybe. I have no idea.
Well, you know, we kind of have this citizen science project called Asteroid Mappers that just might have a little to do with the Dawn mission, so you've always got a place here to come hang out.
Excellent.
So thank you so much, and for those of you just tuning in and unsure what you just stumbled into, this is the CosmoQuest 24-hour, but really 32-hour Hangoutathon to raise money for public engagement in science. We are bringing you 32 straight hours of science-related content, art, conversation, and we're even going to be playing Cards Against Astronomy in our final hour, and working backwards for the rest of the day. We have Cards Against Astronomy. We have Sandy and the baby avocado coming on to talk about when asteroids approach. We have Beyond the Wall, and we're going to try and sort out this crazy, crazy weather system they have in Westeros. We have Jess Nokum coming in, one of the meteorite men, and now we have... We now have Susie the Geek with us, and you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and your kidling, and we will jump into our quick bite on how to raise a geek.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susie, and these are my kids, Kevin and Amanda. You guys say hi.
Hi.
And they're being a little camera shy today, but that's okay. We usually do audio, so this is kind of a fun adventure for all of us to jump in and do this, but we knew you guys were working really hard today, so we wanted to jump in and give y'all a little help, a little assist on doing this. So we thought we might talk about some of our favorite things in kind of science education. We're kind of flying off the top of our heads because, you know, kids, they like to do that. And so we're going to talk about
Space and going to all these different planets and stuff.
Just ruined my role, man.
You start out as a cell and you don't do very much like in the water, and you grow to adapt to land, then you do tribal civilizations, and then from you just keep getting bigger and bigger. Yeah.
So you learned a lot about how maybe life on this planet developed and how life on other planets would develop.
Yeah, definitely.
So like if you had a planet that was just covered with water, what kind of creature do you think would live there?
Maybe a sea/air animal.
And what kinds of things? Would they have flippers or wings or
They probably
what kind of
have
stuff?
flippers and They would probably just live in water though, because there was no land, there'd be no like resources to get from being out of the water.
So how would they get around? What kind of shapes and stuff do you think
Like
they'd have?
flippers and webbed feet.
Don't really know.
Just some fun stuff. And so, hey Kevin, what is your favorite area in science to study?
Life science.
What kind of science?
Life science.
And what does that include?
It includes like studying about animals and plants and lots of other things.
So one really interesting thing about studying animals and plants is that has to do with space is what would they be like on other planets?
Definitely not. Well, probably not like they are on Earth.
So how did you get an idea of what they might be like on other planets?
Well, lots of fiction shows and movies and books, they all describe animals and things to be like sci-fi, to be like the what kind of shapes they'd be like, and we can't really imagine it.
Yeah, you can.
But you can come up with some ideas based on the way things are shaped here, right? You could come up with some ideas. Now, of course, truth tends to be stranger than fiction, so there's no way we could imagine all of the stuff out there, but we could get an idea from it. And that's one way we can have a lot of fun with science, is playing a game like that where you can kind of come up with your own creatures and stuff.
Build your own world.
What's another fun thing you can do? Now, there's some stuff that we have gotten supplies to do that we haven't gone out and done yet, and that's building our own rockets and shooting them up. Is that something you guys would like to do? We've got model rockets. We just haven't fired them yet.
You guys actually didn't you guys get them more for Amanda than me? Because
we got them for both of you. Don't worry.
I'm not really interested in that.
Well, what could you put on it that would make it interesting?
I don't know.
Do tell.
Could you?
Animals on Earth, and I don't think that would be very, very accurate, because if it is another planet, the places would be different, and wouldn't that mean they'd be different to adapt to their area?
I think so. I think they would be very differently kind of shaped and have all kinds of arms and legs and wings and things designed for whatever environment they grew up in. Now, there's a game that you've played that helped you kind of figure out what kind of creatures needed to be in what kind of environments. And what game was that?
Spore.
And in Spore, what could you do?
You basically make your own animal, and you make it smarter to where it's this super advanced race.
Where they're out in space, like the highest level is you're flying around in space.